I mean, you don't want to call up. I mean, your progeny are going to hate you if you knew about and you didn't buy it. I mean, they're just going to absolutely hate you, and they're gonna think you're a legend if you, sacrificed and sacrificed, didn't buy that expensive car and bought a whole coin instead, because that whole coin is going to be worth 10 million bucks. Not that far out, by the way. I mean, it's, so to me, it's all pretty obvious. And yet, most people are asleep at the switch and they don't see it, or their biases are preventing them from buying it. I'm hard pressed to see how we're not at 100K by the end of calendar 2024. And I think this cycle takes us, 200 or 300K.
If you knew about Bitcoin and didn't buy it in its early days, your children and descendants are going to hate you. However, if you sacrificed and were able to get to 0.1 Bitcoin or even one whole Bitcoin or more, they will think you're a legend. Why? Because Bitcoin is going to $10 million per coin. That's just one of the insights that came out of my latest interview with Larry Lepard. If you want to check out the full interview, it's the first link in the description below, posted on the Crypto Nutshell channel. Within the interview, we discuss Larry's current thoughts on Bitcoin, why Larry believes Bitcoin is going to $300,000 per coin in this cycle, and why eventually it will hit 10 million per coin. We also discuss if investors have missed the boat and the parallels between Bitcoin and the early internet. Be sure to check out the full interview, first link in the description, but without further ado, let's jump in with the Larry Lepard.
Most persistent question we get back to us on our newsletter is people thinking they're late to Bitcoin. Back in the day, it was a big deal to get to one whole Bitcoin, and now it's sort of changed to 0.1 Bitcoin because cost of living's up. People can't allocate as much capital to it. What would be your response to early investors or people that are new to Bitcoin that think they can just get to 0.1 and they're thinking that they've missed the boat on it?
Well, I don't think anybody's missed the boat. I mean, I think we're still very much in the early days. It's going to 10x and then it's going to 10x again. So, I mean, from an investing point of view, you don't want to miss something that's going to go up 100x and maybe 1,000x if you talk 15, 20 years out. So I don't think, and point one is going to be a meaningful amount to have. I mean, it's being a whole coiner is going to be an enormous deal in a few years. And so, it's, I don't think you missed the boat. I mean, I think you've got to understand, what's going on here and the way this can continue to compound in value. I mean, you cited the Microsoft example, and I told the story in Madeira, when I was on the stage with Sailor and Lynn and Preston, and, I bought Microsoft at what would now be split adjusted 6 cents, and the stock is worth hundreds of dollars. And so it was, like 4,300 times your money, or 4,300 times your money, right? I mean, it's nuts. And I bought it in this was in '86 when they came public, or '87, and I sold it a few years later in order to buy a condominium because I'd made money on it. I'd gone up 2 or 3x. It's been a good investment, but I needed the money to buy, a place to live. And and I'm not angry at that decision. I'm angry at the fact that I didn't sell 2/3 of it and keep a third. Do you know what I mean? And find the other third somewhere else. I probably could have found it. There's something I could have, done some way I could have gotten the other third. But anyway, and so I think that the key is people don't understand the value of compounding something at, 20, 30, 40% a year over a bunch of years. I mean, this is how great fortunes are built. And so this is a truly unique asset, just as Microsoft was a truly unique asset. I mean, they had the protocol, so to speak, for running PCs. And PCs were, about to go from being an expensive toy that, replaced a typewriter or, a Wang word processor to becoming something that everybody had 6 of in their houses. And every single one of them that ran Microsoft's, software needed their product. And of course, Apple came along and provided an alternative. But the point is that, and that's what's going to happen here. I mean, everybody is going to need Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is going to be the monetary standard of the next, millennium. And so it's kind of like, Jesus, I mean, here you are, you've got a chance to buy this 15 years in for something that could last hundreds, if not 1,000 plus years. I mean, you're not too late. You're really not too late. So my view is, buy what you can, forget about it, and, sit back and enjoy the fact that in Bitcoin terms, you're going to get, you're in fiat terms, you're going to get richer and richer. as Bitcoin becomes more and more of a replacement for fiat, because it's just a much better form of money. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, some people think, well, it's this magic internet money or whatever it is, or you guys are all a cult, or it's a bubble, or it's none of those things. This is a technical innovation. This is the invention of provable digital scarcity. And so, I love the way Saylor in some of his recent talks, he's talked about how inventions happen and then they change the world, and they don't. You can't go back. I mean, the one he used recently, he talked about how when a guy invented a perfect clock, we were then able to, and I've been at Greenwich Mean, the Greenwich Mean Academy or Greenwich Mean Station in London. The ships were able to set their clocks to a certain time that allowed them to then use a sextant to shoot, the stars and figure out where they were and navigate, and so suddenly navigation became usable. I mean, in the same way that optics improved, the ability to look at the stars, which blew up the Copernican model of how the stars and the Earth circulate, are related. And suddenly, we realize that we're circling the sun, not vice versa. And so, I mean, the printing press comes out, and could you foresee that the church was going to fall, and that everyone was going to be able to read, and we're going to have libraries, or that we're going to have the internet where you could literally get any piece of information anywhere in the world instantly? I mean, no, you can't really foresee these things. But here we are. They've invented a form of money that solves the biggest problem that every form of money has had for thousands of years. For thousands of years, money has been debased, full stop. There's been no money that hasn't been debased for thousands of years. Even gold. Gold, it grows at 1.7% a year. In 40 years, there'll be twice as much gold on the planet. It gets debased. Now, that's a lot sounder than fiat, which grows at, in the US, 7 or 8% a year since 1971. But monetary debasement has just been a fact of life for thousands of years. Bitcoin just solved that. Totally solved it. Completely, okay. Holy shit. Guess what? The world is going to look a lot different now that we solved that problem, right? And what people aren't thinking about is just, what does that mean? How different is the world going to look? And, I don't even know, because I'm sure, just as the internet took paths that I could never have foreseen. I mean, could I foresee that I was going to do all my shopping online and Amazon was going to deliver shit to my house in under a day? No, I couldn't foresee that. I had no clue when I was investing in dial-up internet that was going to happen. Do you know what I mean? But I knew that sending email messages to people halfway around the world was going to be useful. And so I invested in it, right? And, do we know how Bitcoin's going to evolve and how it's going to get used? I mean, no, we don't. But we do know that Bitcoin solves the problem of monetary debasement. And that's been a very big problem in human society for thousands of years. And so we just solved it. So, okay, I'll bet on that. I think, I'm guessing that over time, individual free-thinking humans, just like you and me and all the other people who've adopted Bitcoin, are all going to look at it and going to come to the same conclusion and go, you know what? This solves the problem of monetary debasement. I want some of that. That works. Let's use that. Why would I ever price something in fiat when I know that fiat is just, it's that it can get diluted? I'm not going to get paid back in real terms. I want to get paid back in Bitcoin terms. So, yeah, it's hard for people, I think, to get their heads around that. But I think once you do, there's really no going back, and I think, your generation is going to look back and think, I often joke about it. You can say, so the price of capital is the most, so capitalism is based on increased efficiency and increased productivity, right? That's what Adam Smith taught us. Supply and demand. The baker, makes everyone's life better because he bakes bread and he pays the guy who grew the wheat. The guy who buys from him pays him, and so on and so forth. And so productivity, specialization and productivity, efficiency is what has brought all the wealth that we have in the world to the world. Not growth, as Keynes would say, not animal spirits, not all that. No, it's efficiency. Okay. The price of money. So efficiency is achieved by investing in the proper things to create productivity. The cotton gin, you used to be able to, pick 5 pounds of cotton in a day. The gin came along, it can make 50 pounds of cotton in a day. So it's 10 times more effective for one person, right? So efficiency is what you want. And the way you get efficiency is you invest in the right things. So the cotton gin was an obvious no-brainer investment. We're going to make these things because it's faster, better, cheaper. Okay, fine. So basically, if you're looking for efficiency in money, if you're looking, so to get efficiency, you've got to invest in the right things. To invest in the right things, you've got to have the right price of the money. When you set the cost of the money at zero through ZERP, that's just a crime, because basically people can go borrow money for nothing. They invest in productive industry, and that's why billionaires are billionaires and the rest of us are paying too much. Okay. So, if you set the price of money correctly, then you get an efficient investment framework where people will invest in things that have a return on them, and they won't invest in things that don't have a return on them. They won't make malinvestments. And so, having the money not deflect is the key to doing that correctly. I mean, if the money is moving around, if you price fix the money, I mean, here's the point I was trying to make earlier. My grandkids are going to say, I can't believe those idiots were letting 12 people in a room set the cost of capital. I mean, what the They will look at that the way that you and I look at medieval people who were bloodletting. I mean, they bloodlet, George Washington, right? I mean, they thought that, draining his blood would actually help him. It killed him at the end. I mean, he was sick anyway, he was going to die. But the point is, it's insane. The fact that we have a monetary system where we've got 12 people in a room, setting the policy, the interest rate policy, nuts. It's why the world is so broken. And it's why we've got to return to a monetary standard that is sound. And once we do, I think people will be amazed at the benefits that we all reap from it. I mean, I look at from the time I was a kid in the 70s to present, I look at all the technology that's come along and how much it's advanced things. I mean, it's stunning, right? I mean, it's just unbelievable. And so one would think with all of that, we would be working 30-hour weeks and taking big vacations, and there'd be wealth everywhere and everything. No, because it's all gone to the wrong places. It's all gone to the people at the top who control the monetary system. And this is why 1% of the United States people control 50% of the U.S. wealth, and the people at the bottom are still poor. And it's all because the people who have tilted the playing board in their favor, they've broken the system. And your generation is going to be screwed if we don't fix this system. The good thing is, Satoshi came along and gave us this, this God-given, I believe almost, spiritually driven solution to this enormous problem. And, and then we're just going to let the marketplace do its thing, which is people are going to be faced with choices and they're going to make the choice to adopt this. And the thing that I think a lot of people don't understand is just how much better they're going to be if they do adopt this versus if they don't.